in your career as you progress through it, are there any major obstacles that you can recall that were just tough to get through, moments that you thought, oh my gosh, is is this going to happen, or how am I going to get through this? What were maybe one or a few of those obstacles, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, and I can speak specifically, I think, about sport to career. I
Yeah.
think there's a few obstacles that any athlete's going to face coming out of sport. The first one is that, especially if you transition later, like I did it fairly early. I came out of sport at 20 or 21. But if you transition later, you're going to be trying to move into roles that are not necessarily the most junior role, but maybe like a little up the rung. And you're going to have no relevant hard skill experience necessarily. So I think that that's a big obstacle for athletes to face, is they have to, as we were talking about soft skills, they have to inventory those skills and try to show how they're going to be effective in the team based on the soft skills they've developed through sport, instead of necessarily having the hard skills to do financial modeling or whatever it may be. So I think that's a big obstacle for athletes. The second obstacle will be, that I found coming from cross country skiing, where the sport's not really mainstream. I think it's a bit of an obstacle selling your story and selling your sport to some employers. So you really have to work through, what your accomplishments are in sport, what your sport is, how it fits in the larger sport ecosystem. Say cross country skiing, it's one of the Olympic sports. It's been in the Olympics since X year, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a bit of an obstacle to face. Uh, and yeah, I think those are the two main ones that I sort of saw through my recruitment and career processes.
Yeah. And how did you overcome some of those? Was it just a matter of needing to wrap your head around them and figure out how to sell yourself, and fully understand those and be able to communicate them? Was that kind of the way that you overcame them?
Yeah, exactly. I think, as I said, make sure to, and you do this before sport even ends, like start inventorying what skills you've learned. Start thinking about examples of when you've been an effective team leader, uh, you've worked extremely hard and achieved a solid result, or a time when things didn't go as planned, your flight got canceled, and you showed up the morning of your race and ended up winning the race, stuff like that. Think
Yeah.
of little examples like that that can tie into the soft skills
Mhm.
that you want to sort of sell as your package and your story to future employers or schools, etc.
Mhm.
uh, I think that was a big one. And then, yeah, for sort of selling the sport, uh, just, yeah, I guess go through, have a sort of a history of the sport, and understand where your sport is in the broader sport ecosystem, and try to have a clear, articulate way of describing that, I guess.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're an elite athlete, you've been in this sporting bubble for so long that you think that everybody has those types of skills that you've attained through sport. And so it's almost like you don't necessarily think that there's any reason for you to communicate that, because everybody you've really been in contact with has had similar experiences. So why is that special, or why is that unique, or why is that cool to talk about or exciting? But I think when you start to dive into pools outside of your sporting realm and your bubble and your network in sport, then you realize that those are actually pretty amazing stories that you've got, the experiences that you've gone through. You can make yourself stand out, and they really do highlight some of those transferable skills. I think that's, yeah, that's a great point.